Welcome again to the Fall 2015 Division of Global Affairs Speaker Series. Today I am happy to introduce Dr. Amel Mili, who will present a lecture titled Women's Constitutional Rights After the Arab Spring, the Islamist Factor. Dr. Mili holds a J.D. in private law from the Law School of Tunis and a master's in public administration from the University of Tunis. She holds a master's and Ph.D. in global affairs, so we're very proud to call her one of our own, from Rutgers-Newark. From 1991 to 2009, and except for a leave of absence to pursue her graduate studies at Rutgers, Dr. Mili served as a magistrate in the Administrative Tribunal of Tunisia, a special Supreme Court modeled on France's Conseil d'État.
Counselor of State.
Dr. Mili's professional interests include law, political science, gender politics, democratic transition, globalization, the Arab Spring, language education, specifically balancing language skills and contents, balancing theory and practice, balancing depth and breadth, and balancing business and culture, and analyzing the status of Arabic, and in law, with a specialization in jurisdiction, administrative law, comparative law, cyberspace law, and legal Arabic. She has published 18 articles in journals and conferences, as well as a textbook for teaching Arabic to business students. She is currently preparing a book for University Press of New England, Brandeis University Press, titled Gender and the Arab Spring. This book is due to appear in 2015. Dr. Mili served as program co-chairwoman of the first international workshop on digital technologies for teaching and learning Arabic, which was held in Tunis, Tunisia. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Mili.
Thank you so much all for coming. I am really thrilled and happy to be here. And the last time I was here, it was in 2009. And I am so happy to be back at Rutgers University. That was like my first home in the US. So I would like to present for you a little bit today the development of the Arab Spring, and mainly the development of the Islamist rhetoric and discourse concerning gender rights and gender equality in both Tunisia and Egypt. Okay, I think I made a mistake. I was planning on putting this, not now, but that's fine. So we would like to understand the interaction between women's constitutional rights and the religious agenda of Islamist party in the MENA region through the Arab Spring. For this, we will see the gendered agenda of religious party, and we will try to answer the following question: how religious party influenced the debate, and how were they influenced by the debate while they were talking and trying to planning for women's rights and gender equality. How their rise to power changed their rhetoric, their propaganda, their campaign, and their slogan. Because in both Tunisia and Egypt, the Islamist party, they were operating underground. They were not allowed to operate in the public sphere till the Arab Spring happened, and they were allowed to participate, in the political game. So we would like to see how they are changing their rhetoric while they are going from a forbidden party to a party that is somehow stirring the wheels of power. So why am I talking about Tunisia and Egypt? I think these two cases are interesting as they have many similarities but yet important differences. So for the similarity in both Tunisia and Egypt, we had the fall of the regime, of the Ben Ali regime during the Arab Spring, and then the fall of the Mubarak regime. We had in both countries a power vacuum, and then we had a succession of temporary government, and then the first fair, transparent election that brought to both countries the Islamist party. In Tunisia, the Islamist party is called Al-Nahda, but we have to keep in mind that there is an umbilical link between Al-Nahda and the Brotherhood, as they started both in Egypt, and then in Egypt they are called the Islamic Brotherhood. So in both countries we had a national constitutional assembly that was mandated to draft a constitution for the country. We had a government that I call a caretaker. It was in Tunisia a temporary government that was supposed to manage the everyday operation of the country till the final election. And we had constitutions drafted and approved in Tunisia in 2014. In Egypt, I will talk about the constitution of 2012, the constitution that was drafted under the Islamic Brotherhood, because in 2014 it's the new constitution that is drafted under the military rule in Egypt. Okay, so these are the similarities. However, we know that at the end there is a big difference, because today we are still having the Islamists taking part in the government in Tunisia. The revolution, the transition is it's a little bit shaky, but it's happening. It is still there. We hope that it will get better. In Egypt, we know that the revolution somehow was cancelled with a military coup, and we are back to the era of maybe Mubarak or before Mubarak. But anyway, the path of the change is suspended for now. Okay. So also, when we look at the constitution, Tunisian constitution of 2014 that was drafted under another, which is an Islamist party, and the constitution of 2012 that was drafted under the Brotherhood in Egypt, we see also a progressive relation in terms of women's rights. Despite the fact that we believe, or we think always, that religious parties are mostly conservative in terms of women's rights. So here we ask the question, is it an electoral ploy or a change of heart of the Islamists? You know, is the Islamist threat, what we call the Islamist threat, is it over? Or should women stay vigilant? So let me give you a little bit an idea about the context, a little bit of the Arab Spring. I guess you all heard about the Arab Spring. The first spark started in Tunisia. We have this vendor, Bouazizi, who set himself in fire in protest against economic harsh and against the lack of freedom. After that, we had the first the riot and uprising in Tunisia, and then we had, at the first time, we had the President Ben Ali who came on the TV. He tried somehow to stop or to give something to the people so he could co-opt this uprising. He came in a famous speech and he told people, I understand you, however it did not work. The riot continued, the uprising continued, and when the uprising that started in December 2010 in Sidi Bouzid, which is a poor region in Tunisia, it spread and it arrived to the capital, to Tunis. We were surprised to see Ben Ali. He flew the country in January 2011, and it was, I think it was the 14th of January 2011, and it came as a big surprise. Ben Ali ruled Tunisia for the last 23 years, from 1987 till 2011, basically, when he flew Tunisia. And it seems to people quite a little bit surprised, because, and also this is something that I won't discuss, but it's worth thinking about it. Why did the uprising this time led to Ben Ali leaving the power and leaving Tunisia? Because we had uprising under, for example, Bourguiba regime that were in size very important, but they did not succeed. We had people, some people died because, you know, they tried to use the force against them, but the government stayed still in place. This time, the government, you know, collapsed. When the government collapsed, something happened in the Arab world. So we had, it started a little bit spreading in the region. And I don't know if some of you are the student of globalization and the global affairs, maybe it's also interesting to see it was like contamination going from one country to the other. And I will show you something here. If you have time, you could maybe play with it on your own, which is very interesting because it gives you a timeline and how things started moving from one country to the other and with all the events. I discovered this while I was working actually on this presentation, and I was really happy with it. Let me show you this quickly right now. What am I doing? I am sorry. I think always that I am good with computer. Am I going back? Yeah. So this is the timeline. Is it possible to open this link?
Yeah, you should be able to just click.
No, I think I need to just...
Maybe we'll just copy and paste.
Yeah, copy and paste. Sorry. I want to show them this link because I think it's really worth for students maybe to see it. That's in the talk. It's the first page. Yeah, this one. Yeah. No, you should just paste it in a new browser. Yes. Do you know how to do it?
Oh, it's hold on. It's in the background.
You just close this.
Here it is.
Oh.
But is there a problem?
It's not working for you here? Oh, no, it's still searching.
Okay.
So it should come.
Is going to come up.
Yeah, a map is going to come up. Just. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Or it's the computer doesn't have the software.
Yeah, the computer doesn't have the software. Anyway, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I can send it to you. If there is anyone who is interested with this, I can send it later. Let me just go back to the presentation. Yeah, I wanted to show you this so it gives you a little bit an exact idea about things. Let me open back this. Okay. So in Tunisia, we had, after the fall of the Ben Ali regime, we had different temporary government trying to fill the vacuum or the void. So we have a lot of people talking about this void. So the void is like an important concept to understand, because when Ben Ali left, there was no government anymore in place. And then they tried to fill the void at the beginning with the constitution. And they were very much confused about who should take the power until we have new elections. But people continued the uprising, saying, we don't want anyone who worked with the Ben Ali regime to be again in power. We don't want to use anything. We don't want also to have to use the Tunisian constitution that was drafted in 1959. We want to cut really with everything pertaining to Ben Ali regime. So here the decision was taken to cancel the constitution and to take temporary measure to organize elections. And these elections, it's an election for the constitution of a national assembly to draft a new constitution. So this is very important, and this is different from Egypt. The Tunisian process was a twofold process. So it was temporary at the beginning. So we will have people who will draft the constitution, and once this process ends, and it was supposed to end after 1 year, we will have an election, and it will be the final election for the National Assembly and for the government. While in Egypt, they had also this power vacuum, like people said, they had also a succession of people still related to the government of Mubarak, and people wanted still to have new people, and they had a new elections, but it was like the final election. So in Tunisia, I think this two-step process helped people in the meanwhile to learn more about their differences and to be able to come together and to learn a little bit what to discuss, and it helped people to be more aware of their choices, of the policies around them, I think this helped a little bit the transition. So this is the first thing about the Arab Spring that we have to keep in mind. Okay. So when we had the first democratic elections in Tunisia, it was a surprise. It came as a surprise to people that the Islamist party in Nahda, whose spiritual leader was living for the last 20 years in England, he came, you know, his party had like the majority. It was not the absolute majority, but they had majority. But also we have to keep in mind that under the Ben Ali regime, and it was also under the Bourguiba regime, there was no pluralism. So when we started opening a little bit this possibility, we had, I think in Tunisia, about 160 new political parties. They wanted to join the race to power, but they were not experimented, nothing. So the parties that were able to make it, there were only few one, and in this party, Ennahda had the majority. In Egypt, we see like the same trend, and the Muslim Brotherhood, they have the majority in both the executive power and in the legislative chamber. So here also, because we have this discussion in Tunisia, should we really cancel the constitution of 1959, or should we keep it and try to make it better? And there was a fight between two tendencies. Some people say, let's keep it. It's a good constitution. What we need is to enforce more the constitution, and we need really, we have some changes to make, but we can keep it. And other people, they were saying, really, we need to cancel it. And this opened it kind of, it was an adventure, because we had two groups. A group thinking that in a very automatic way, we will build, starting from this constitution and on, going better. But some other group of people were thinking, we are going to cancel this constitution and to cut the link with anything with our history that is really related maybe to colonialism, to foreign values and all that. So it opened the door to a discussion, discussing everything. And it was kind of a little bit a tricky game. Okay. When the Islamists came to power, the thing that was important, the first thing that happened, the revolution didn't have any leader. We had young people in the streets. They all want dignity, what they call karama, and they all want work and job, and freedom. It was dignity and freedom. But there was no agenda. No one was leading them, and then the second step, when we had the election, and it's same in Tunisia, in Egypt, when we had the political party, the Islamist party winning this election, we noticed a shift in the trajectory of the revolution. Now we are framing the revolution in different terms. And the new framing of the revolution, since we are writing a new constitution, we have to talk about the identity of the state. We have to keep in mind also that the Islamist project is a project that is very much legal. So when we talk about identity, we talk about sources of law. Are we going to keep the secular law, or are we going to go back to Sharia law? And when we talk about all this, we have the women that becomes the center of the identity and of the nation, the nation state. So the discussion became a new one. Which state do we want? What do we want? What is the source of law? What do we want to do with the private relation? And it was not anymore about dignity and economics and all that. Okay, so here I want to go to the gender, because the gender became the central in the Arab Spring. the situation of women became central. And this is not the first time in the history of the Arab countries that the situation of women became central. It was central when the first state was built just after the independence. So which kind of society, which kind of private relation? And I think this is a little bit everywhere. We see the discussion today, for example, in the US, and we see all the fights again, for example, same gender marriage. It's also a little bit related to the family and to private relation and all that. So the question of identity has always been important. However, I think in the Arab country, it's still even more salient because I think there are some issues that haven't been solved, you know, they are still there. So I want to go to the language of gender and equality. Do Islamists say there is no equality between men and women? No. They say there is equality, but equality in difference. So we have a big history of discussion between a lot of scholars. They talked about equality, they talked about fairness, they talked about the role of women and men, and no one of them says that we don't want equality, but all of them, they say equality within difference. So the women will have, she's equal in her field, and the man is equal in his field. But there is this separation between both of them. And we see the discussion about women, equality, and situation. It was also the stage for a war between even Islamist scholars. The modernist one in the Islamist scholar and the traditional one in the Islamist scholar. The modernist one, for example, in the 1960s, they will claim, even before that, they will claim, for example, the right to go to school for girls. The possibility maybe for women to circulate in a way that she's more free to get out of the house. Things like that. And they will justify this with having the good mother, okay, or the good sister, or the good daughter. While the conservative, they will put like the domain of the woman is inside the house, and she has to be kind of restricted there. We have a famous kind of modernist, Islamist scholar, modernist in Tunisia, who wrote a book, this was before independence, that is called Our Women in Islam and Law. And he wanted just to put a limit to practices like repudiation. Repudiation means the man could divorce on his own the woman without her being able to do anything. Polygamy, you know, he wanted also to limit polygamy. He wants to set some limits to these old like practices, and he was considered as someone who was out of the Islamic path, and actually he died on his own in his house, because when he walked in the street they were like stunning him. So the issue of women is a very crucial one, and it came back to the debate, of course, during the Arab Spring. So here I am putting the names of some famous scholars who discussed and wrote extensively about equality between genders in Islam. Okay, let equality develop. So I have to say this. So in Tunisia, when another party arrived at the beginning, they started, when they were a little bit at the very big, a little bit careful about it. They did not have a very clear agenda, and I think this was a kind of strategy. But when they first got to the power, it was for them the opportunity really to discuss gender, women's rights. And women's rights did not come into the discussion through women as women, but through the nature of the state. But please let me explain this a little bit more. In 1956, when Tunisia gained independence, the first Tunisian president did something before claiming even the republic. He took this law in 1956 that is called the family law, and it was like a chart of human rights for women. So before drafting which is things that people from the legal field do today, they say before you write a constitution, you should set a minimum of a human value that you agree upon, and then draft your constitution. There is a lot of writing about this in the constitutional transition and building. So he said, no, let's agree about women, and he did this. He took this family law that was considered it's considered progressive to this day, okay? And it's still the site of fight between him and this family law and the Islamist. So in the family law, he said polygamy is forbidden. There is no polygamy. Why should a man marry 4 women? And this is not in Islam, because he did it within the Sharia law, within the Islamic framework. He didn't want to say, I am putting Islam on the side. No, I will take the letters of, I will take Sharia law and I will reinterpret Sharia law. So he said polygamy is actually forbidden, and if you read the verse about polygamy, you could very well say it's forbidden, since God is saying you could take 4 if you are just, and you will never be just between them. So it looks like even all the Arab countries translated this in the right of the man to have 4 wives, but it's kind of forbidden. And then he said there is no repudiation, there is no marriage of children. He said there is also adoption, and this is a big issue in Islam, because adoption, it's okay in Islam to adopt, but you cannot give your name. He said, no, you can adopt and give your name, and he himself adopted a girl and gave her his family name. And yeah, I'm thinking about this. So this is the main thing that he changed, and this was considered as very progressive. And the Nahda party was, in their reading and writing, they were always saying this is against Sharia law, though in 1987, when Ben Ali arrived to power, they said we want to be, because when he arrived to power at the beginning, he called everybody to join in, and they say we want to be part of this, and he said any party that joins, they have to sign on this kind of paper, I don't remember the name, but it's like a reconciliation contract. And in this reconciliation, let's call it reconciliation contract, you have to say that you are for the family law of 1956. And at that time they say, yes, we are for it, and we accept the family law. But then when they got again in conflict with the government and all that, they retrieve it, because also they have a base. Some of their base is very conservative, you know, and they are trying, you know, to juggle between different people. So yeah, so these are the big questions. I put them here. So the state model and the Sharia law. Okay, so here again, what are the Islamists saying? And we see them both in Tunisia and Egypt, and it's amazing the similarities in the path and in what they did during the Arab Spring. So the first project was, yes, equality within difference, but this time they call it the complementarity law. Men and women complement each other in duty and a lot of people say, what's wrong with complementing each other? He will do this, she will do that, there is nothing wrong. However, the feminist organization, they were fierce to combat the project of complementarity, because for them, complementarity could be interpreted, I am a man, I work outside, you are a woman, you work inside the house, you take care of the kids. It could lead to some discrimination. If there are not enough jobs in the market, we'll give the jobs to men first, and then the woman, she has always the natural place for work, that is the house and stuff like that. So here we see the language of equality, how it is moving and how it is taking a new frame, a new reframing. So equality in difference, but this time it's called complementarity, and no one accepted this concept of complementarity from all the modernist, secularist women organization. Okay. After that, so another, they stepped back, okay? So they stepped back and a little bit, they kept some kind of non-transparency about their agenda pertaining to women, but then they were at the same time in public forums talking about we are for equality. Islam gave women her equality. We are for equality. Okay, let me go forward. So here you see this. This was a manifestation against complementarity. So women, you know, from all forms. And what is interesting, I think the NADA project put even, like in Tunisia, we used to have a little bit of separation between women according to their dress code, but here all the women are coming together, a lot of women are coming together to say we don't want complementarity, which is amazing. And this, it was in front of the National Assembly, the place where they were drafting the Constitution. So this one is saying don't touch to my rights, okay? I am trying to hurry up a little bit. So let's go after all these debates and these fights in the civil society, let's go to the Constitution and see what do we have written about women's rights in the Constitution that was drafted in Tunisia under the Islamist party and in Egypt under the Islamist party. So here I am putting this Constitution. So it had 200 votes in favor, only 12 against it, and 4 abstention. So this Constitution in the National Assembly was a consensus, which is excellent. So what does the Constitution say about women's rights? So for the first time in the history of Tunisia, we have in this Constitution a language that introduces the equality. So in Arabic language, when we talk about women and men in the Constitution of 1959, we will talk about citizen. And citizen could refer to women or to men. But in Arabic, it could refer to women or to men, but you could also make it feminine. So the names, they have a gender. So here we see in the Constitution clearly saying that there is equality for men and women. So they made citizen feminine. So muwatinin wa muwatinat, male and female. So in the introduction to the Constitution, there is an acknowledgement of the sacrifices of Tunisian women over generations. So the preamble of the Constitution holds women up as an integral player in the history and collective memory of the Tunisian people. We have Article 21 of the Constitution that provides without qualification equality and equal opportunities for all citizens, men and women, without distinction, favoritism, or partiality in rights and duty. Further, we have Article 46 that says that the state protects women's achieved rights. And this, it means there is no backwardness in women's rights. We are not going to question what women have. We can only go forward in that. And seeks to support and develop them. A clear reference to the Code of Personal Statute, a victory of the civil society organization. The preservation of women's rights is constituted as a legal axiom, which could not be questioned even by the legislator himself. And the Constitution is an instance of application of this principle. This article binds all parties by the code of the family law. So the last paragraph of Article 46 stipulates that the state shall take the necessary measure to eliminate violence against women. So the issue of violence against women was a claim for feminist organization for years, and the only answer that feminist organization had, that they are women having a problem and trouble in their relation with men, and they imagine that men are being maybe violent with them. And of course, under dictatorship, it's very hard for a state to acknowledge violence. So it was like there is no way, there is no violence against women. It doesn't exist, which is something that women express on a daily basis. So, you know, from sexual harassment to everything, this is, but here in the Constitution, it was a big push by feminist organization for the acknowledgement of the violence against women, and the state now is partner to try to work to address this violence against women. The 2012 Egyptian constitution that was also taken under the Islamist regime, Morsi regime, seems very protective of women's rights as well. So when we look closely to this constitution, we see first of all a reference to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is excellent. Then we see also the same, we see a talk about equality between citizens, male and female, the same. We see a lot of the language, equality language rhetoric that existed in the constitution under Mubarak, included, and they even developed on that. However, there is, I think there is a big difference between Tunisia and Egypt in that sense that Egyptian women does not have a protective family law code. It did not happen for her, while Tunisian women had something clear that is there as a point of reference, you know, to take the discussion. So we see the same. So let's go back to this constitution and let's see what maybe seems a little bit strange, okay? So under these Islamist regimes, we have total equality, everything seems very good, but let's see, are there some other articles that raise concern? So we come back to Article 1 of the Tunisian constitution about state identity. Article 1 was the subject of a big fight, and this was a fight between modernists and between traditionalists, if you want to call them this way, and it was in reference to the religion of the state. Should we say that the state has a religion? And if we say, if Islam is the religion of Tunisia, does it mean that Sharia law is the law of Tunisia? So we have this big fight, and we have the other people who wanted to put as reference the international framework about human rights. And at the end of the day, the way they solved this big fight, they put the two parts. They put Islam is the religion of the country, but also human rights are the reference for the country. So you might sort out this contradiction once you are in power, okay? But I have to say that under Bourguiba, it was already there, the reference to Islam as the religion of the state, but it has never been interpreted as being the meaning of that it means Sharia law. Okay, so after this article, both were happy. State identity. So we see the Article 1 that says Tunisia is a free, independent and sovereign state. Its religion is Islam, its official language is Arabic, and its political regime is a republic. And then we have Article 2 that declares that Tunisia is a state that has a civil character based on citizenship, the will of the people, and the primacy of law. So analysts are a little bit puzzled in front of this article and its meaning. We have Article 6 as well. The first paragraph of this article declares that the state is the guardian of religion and that it guarantees freedom of worship or belief. So if the state is the guardian of the religion, how could it be at the same time the guarantor of freedom of worship? So, so people are saying, this is also something that could be problematic in the future. Okay. We have Article 22 to 24 that declare the sanctity of life, and this was uploaded as being an article that will eliminate the death penalty because life is sacred. But women organizations fear that this would forbid the right of women to abortion. Tunisian women have the right to perform abortion if they want it since 1962 or even before. It is 100% free. Even the state offers this service and women do not pay for it. So they were concerned that women will not be able to have the right about this. The Egyptian constitution. So it says also principle of Sharia, and it says it includes its total proof, jurisprudential rules and sources as agreed upon by the people of the Sunnah and consensus. And according to the Salafi legislator, Burhani, he was there, the word sources refer to Quran, prophetic tradition, analogy, and consensus, the officially recognized sources of the law in the Sunni tradition. What this formulation does is potentially drastically open up the domain for Sharia-based doctrine that could function as the basis to overturn positive law. The new constitution allows for declaring act criminal legally not on the basis of parliamentary legislation, but on the basis of the constitution. And this is very dangerous because if you just go to the constitution and the constitution refers to Sharia, you could say this according to Sharia is a crime, even if the law doesn't put it as a crime. And the punishment, you could refer to Sharia to say, oh, the punishment of in Sharia is this and this. Something very important in the Egyptian constitution, they put Al-Azhar. I don't know if you know what is Al-Azhar. It's the religious institution, big institution in Egypt. And usually they refer to Al-Azhar in matters pertaining to law and that were dealt with in Islamic law. And here, for the first time, the language includes Al-Azhar as an institution on top of the constitution even. And this is, okay, it's not for today, but there was a big fight between the constitutional court in Egypt and the Islamic government, and some people think this is a way to curtail this court, this constitutional court, and to put Al-Azhar on top of the pyramid, which is dangerous. Okay, the restriction of rights and liberties to what may not violate the foundation of state and society, which in mind of the Islamist legislator include Sharia as such foundation. So Sharia is made to stand as the supreme law over the above any universal notion of human rights. And according to the Article 81 of the new Constitution, exercise of rights and liberties should not violate the section on state and society. So where do we go from all that? Okay, so revolution started around political demands and quickly evolved to debate on social model and gender issue. Constitutions drafted in legislative body dominated by religious parties are surprisingly gender-free with all the reservations that I was talking about. In the case of Tunisia, credit is due to vibrant ecosystem still of civil society organization and to the fact that another was on the defensive at the time, you know, at the time that the Brotherhood in Egypt was obliged to leave the political scene, and now that in Tunisia they started dealing in a better way with all the parts of the government and the other political party. So they learned a kind of a lesson early on, not to have the same fate as the fate in Egypt, and this helped Tunisia. So what I want to say here, okay, having a constitution matters and matters a lot, because I believe that law is culture as well. Law is not only the text. Law makes the mind. Law is very much, it's in our everyday. So at least as a starting point, you have to have it as the right starting point. So constitution matters, but it is not enough. We have to think that within the revolution, we had a change in the legislative body, the executive body, but the judiciary body is still there. The whole judiciary body, because judiciary body is not subject to elections. So how are all this body of judges, how are they going to interact with the constitution in its everyday application? And mainly in Tunisia, that we have now a new constitution and we have to take a new law to put in practice this constitution. Unfortunately, I had the chance to read the first decision that came out and pertaining to women's rights. No one of them enforced the constitution. No one of them. So thank you very much for your patience.